So the entire point of this video is really just to demo the drawing of a scene from the starting point, which is really just a bunch of boxes, to a more finished, rough state. And, this is really the way that you should start off just about any picture, which is a lot of basic shapes like boxes, cylinders, spheres, and cones, which are the most basic shapes that you can build anything out of. And, no matter how complex the object is, you start off with these basic shapes. So I'm starting this scene off. You can see I restarted because I didn't like what I was doing there to begin with. So I'm now doing this. I was thinking of doing something like some sort of tunnel entrance to maybe an underground base or something. So just by drawing a lot of, frankly, boxes, this is just a big box. I'm just drawing the inside of it. And adding details by chamfering edges, and just adding lines on top of this geometry that I'm building. You'll notice that I'm jumping pretty rapidly around this drawing. I'm not just staying in one spot. And this is something that you really need to work on if you want to ever actually finish a drawing. It's probably one of the most common problems that I see a lot of beginners do when they're drawing backgrounds, is that they get really fixated on drawing one particular part of the environment and completely forgetting about everything else. And that can be daunting. If you're drawing, especially like a cityscape or something, you're sitting there just grinding away on one building, trying to add as many details as you can onto it, and then you realize, I still have to draw like 30 more buildings to the cityscape. It took me this long to draw one. How am I ever going to finish all the rest of these? And the answer to that is really just, it's because you've put too much attention into one building. You have to jump around. You have to build the scene up with these simple forms first. And once you get them down, then you can move forward with adding details. So you'll notice by this point, now that I have the drawing up to sort of a better understanding of what it is that I'm going to do, I've started adding more details, like to the ceiling of the tunnel and to the right side wall here. I've just begun drawing this pipe that's wrapping around the top of the tunnel here, just because if you ever look at the underside of a bridge or something, there's always like tons of pipes running along them. So it's just sort of like a nice extra detail. Just trying to add more architectural elements to the inside of the tunnel, because it's very rare that you have tunnels that are just completely smooth walled all the way down. They usually have beams, some sort of veins, panes, whatever is in there. There's just a whole bunch of them, cross beams, you name it. Same thing, adding details to the door here. It's like a big heavy blast door, so it looks pretty heavy duty. Like this is sort of a secure sort of security area, and I'm going to show that by adding this sign up above here, which again is just simply a box just tacked onto the top of the tunnel. Going ahead and adding those vertical sort of pane-like beams to the left side wall of the tunnel here. Keeping it very simple. I'm not getting too crazy detailed with this. I'm trying to get my idea down pat and making sure that it's working before I go forward with tightening up details and, making sure everything is working out perfectly. I figure up top they would have something like spotlights, usually at nighttime. You want to make sure that the entrance area is very well lit. So if you remember what I showed from the drawing ellipses and circles video a couple of videos back, these searchlights are really just cylinders with a couple of extra details tacked on and then stuck to a pole. Drawing two of them here, stuck on these poles so they can be aimed. A little bit of environmental detail always goes a long way. You know, there's a lot of geometric shape here, so you know, try to balance that out with some organic shapes like leaves, plants. You see, have some jutting out from the side over there in between in between that ventilation exhaust. Because you know, I figure this tunnel is probably built into the side of a mountain, or really just like a cliff side, really. So it's probably surrounded by plants of some sort. Right now in the foreground, I'm adding some panels, the kind of panels that you see to like, you know, block people, or just to like warn people to like, you know, stay out, keep away. So these are just kind of connected together in front here, off to the side, like sort of closer up in front of the camera. They have little do not enter signs on them. You know, it's always nice to have something a little bit closer up to the camera. Especially if everything is in the middle and background. Having just at least one thing in the foreground usually helps just with the sense of space a little bit more. Just adding some really crude rock face up there and like a sort of a small guard tower on top of it. These rock faces are really just sort of random like lines that are sort of generally in the shape of rocks. And yeah, by this point, that's really about it. That's the finished piece in terms of getting it up to sort of like a rough sketch. You know, especially by this point with a sketch like this, you definitely know whether or not it's something that you want to continue with. Like for me with this picture, this would be something I would actually really like to continue working on. And if anything, I'm probably going to turn this into my own project for the class for you guys to follow along with. For your own project, I highly recommend trying to do something similar to this. Even if you're working on paper, still start off with your basic shape. Start off with very light lines. Don't make heavy-handed lines. Start off very light. Erase things that you don't need anymore. If you're working digitally, one of the questions I get asked very often is, how do I make such straight lines like this so quickly? And the answer to that really is, well, it's a trick in Photoshop. We all know that when you hold Shift in Photoshop, it constrains the line so that if you go from right to left or up or down, the line remains perfectly straight, right or left, up or down. That's what Shift constraints mean. But if you hold Shift, there's a technique called shift clicking. While holding Shift, take your pen or your mouse or whatever you're using, and click once in one spot with the brush tool, and then click again somewhere else, or tap your pen somewhere else, still while holding Shift, and a line will automatically be made between the 2 points that you clicked on. And that's what I basically do for all of these straight lines. It's a very quick and effective way of drawing scenes like this. So I definitely would love to see any of these kinds of sketches that you do for whatever scene it is that you want to be drawing. Just remember not to get so caught up on a lot of the littler details. Keep it loose and flowing, jump around, and try to get about as much done as you can within 1 to 2 hours. This drawing that you see here only took about 30 minutes, so this video was sped up. So all that said, I would definitely love to see what you have, and I'll see you in the next couple of videos. Hope this was helpful.